Hi, my name is Dave Franicki. I'm with Capstone Capital USA, and I want to thank you for joining me where I can share what I've learned through the COVID pandemic, through all the unknowns, the financial issues and whatever, and hopefully this will help you in your note business. I think you're going to find it very, very interesting. It may not be that long, but it's going to be very, very factual to the point, and you will learn something out of this for sure, guaranteed. So I was talking to Fred Rui about what can I talk about, because it's been, I feel, kind of a flat year for me, and I think it has been for many other folks. And he said, what about your old flour mill? I said, that's interesting. We could do that. And what did you do? And I said, well, I sold a few notes and I bought a few notes and whatever. He said, well, why don't you just talk about that? I said, well, it's not a flour mill, it's a textile mill. He said, okay, talk about that. Then a friend of mine, David Fenoglio, I saw him at a IMN conference several years ago. And I was bringing up a particular property to him. I said, what do I do, David? He said, he always deals on this particular axiom, if you will. Patience equals profit. So I think these two, between profiting during a crisis and patience equals profits, it's a good header for what I'll be talking about. My contact information is on this slide, and it'll be at the end of this video also. Typical disclaimer, I am an expert. You do your own due diligence. You do what you're going to do. Don't just take me for what I say as being book. Check with your advisors. Don't try to game the market. Everything is what it is, and you need to figure it out for yourself to make sure that you're making solid decisions for yourself. In terms of who's Dave Franicki, I've been in real estate since 1978 in Cincinnati with rental properties for 4 or 5 years, and then I jumped over to Portland, Maine, became an agent, got into building and development, did that for several years until the market crashed. It was a great, great experience being a broker developer. Moved here to Phoenix in '97, got back into real estate in '01, fixing and flipping, doing that type of thing. And then in '03, I came across a site where the dirt was just being turned over. I thought I could do this developing thing again. So I got into that. Did that for quite a while, buying parcels in the western part of Phoenix, splitting up 5 acres into ones, putting in the well septic, hired a builder to build them out. And that was a great experience too, until 2008 when everything crashed. I moved over to being an REO agent, selling bank-owned properties, pretty much typical where things are going to be coming up here in the next year or so, and sold a fair number, 900 or so. And then I moved over to the note space in 2013. And I've been dabbling in self-storage for a while, and now I'll be talking about that at the end of this particular PowerPoint. So we're in a maze, I think, and we're looking through this maze to see what can we do? Where are the nuggets? Where can we make the money? So again, this is all about profiting through a crisis, figuring out what's viable, what's not, and minimize your risk. So we're going to talk about several case studies. One, reperforming note to non-performing note, to reperforming note to non-performing note, all in an HSA. I love being able to invest with my HSA and my Roth. I love tax-free money. And I'll also get into, there's gold in proper due diligence. Even if you make a mistake on the front end, there's gold in the back end when you go back and find it. Secondly, I'm going to be talking about generating high yields, high returns with a low balance, low P&I notes, pools with small number of remaining payments. I did that in my Roth. I bought a dozen of them or so that way a year ago fall, and then I disposed of them in the COVID time period. And then this year I was doing some mailings. I found a few notes that way. Didn't go real well, but I was being extremely selective because I want to minimize my risk. That risk is just everything with the unknowns. So we'll be talking about a 0 coupon rate loan that I bought in my Roth. And then we're going to be talking about buying partials with guaranteed returns and guaranteed profits. Again, all in my Roth IRA. And then lastly, this is kind of funny, where my self-storage facility is. Stephen King's, a couple of the scenes from Night Shift was filmed there. We have water rights, obviously hydro, self-storage, COVID, many sleepless nights. And this gets down to what Fenolio was talking about, where patience equals profits. So health savings account, HSA, it allows you to save money tax-free and your health savings account for healthcare expenses now or down the road. It's a great model to use. And we're not going to get into a lot of the details about that, but I did and I do use that model to invest. This particular note on Parkway Street in Redford, Michigan, I bought in my HSA in March of 17 for $11,500. The unpaid balance was $14,700. So the discount wasn't that great, but I like the interest rate. I like the fact that it's been reperforming for 6 years because it was modded out in 2012. I like the loan to value and investment to value. For my HSA, I felt that was really, really safe. And I was projecting a yield at purchase of around 18%. And my goal was to sell a partial and move on. Well, little did I know that the payer had other ideas and she stopped paying. It's like, oh my gosh, I got a limited amount of money left in my HSA. All I want to do is blow and go, and what do I do? So let's look into this. So the original loan was originated in November of 06 for $145,000. It was modified in 2012 down to 20. Now the payer had to put down $16,000. The monthly P&I was dropped down to $233 from $1,352. So she got a really, really, really sweetheart deal. But again, she's been there since 06. What could go wrong? Who couldn't pay that? Then, after she started getting weak, I looked at the modification documents, and you can see on here the original $145,000, the $20,000 new unpaid balance, the interest rate, and the new monthly payment. Now, what I didn't see is coming up next, and that is this. This is what I saw several months in late 19, I think it was in November of 19, meaning that if the payer does not pay, there was a right of rescission built into the modification, meaning that it would revert back to what it was. So this lady went dark, and I thought, okay, this is it. I got to get rid of her. That was it. So here's a summary of what happened. I attempted a foreclosure initially in November of 17. Again, I did not remember the right of rescission. She brought it current. Cost me $1,500. Then I found out that in Michigan, you're capped at $75 in recouping fees. So going into September of 19, she was late 20 plus times. Like, really? But the value jumped to 110. That was a windfall. That's what it turned out. Now, had she not gone dark, she could have sold the house and made a significant amount of money. She did not. So that's when I noticed the right of rescission. And I sent a demand letter demanding that her unpaid balance is now $155 back to her original loan terms with the original payment of $1,300. And she immediately did a bankruptcy in February of 20, which was released in June of 20. But what she also did is she went to the CFPB, the Consumer Protection Financial Bureau, pushed the red button, and made a claim against me. It's like, really? So my servicer saw that and basically fired me. They said, no, we're done. We can't deal with this particular liability. So then I had some choices. Choices being out-of-state rehab, looking at the inflation, the value of the dollar, money now versus money later, 9 months to do a foreclosure and also to rehab. It's like, I don't think I want to go there. This is too mushy. So what would you have done? Tell you what I did. I sold the note as a non-performing note in June, and I was happy as could be with that. So let's look at the numbers in terms of what's really happening, what happened here. I bought the note, like I mentioned, for $11,500 in March of 17. I added additional costs for insurance and the attorney and whatever else. It took it up to 14, but I also collected $5,200 in payments. So my net all in at this time was 87.53. Not a lot of risk there when you look at the loan to value, the UPB, and actually the value of the house and what I put into it. And so I sold it and I made 35 grand. That's the wire that came into my account. So my yield, I don't know. I haven't calculated it, but it's enough. It's totally good. So if you look at what's going on here, I was forced to solve a lot of different problems, whether it be the CFPB, whether it be not noticing the right of rescission, the first foreclosure, and learning about Michigan and what they will allow. So, but net is your value, your payoff will be determined by the number of problems that you solve. With the market moving forward like it is, you're going to see things similar to this, and I would suggest that you be aware. Let's move on to case study number 2, hidden gems in small dollar notes. And when I mean small dollar notes, I mean small or low unpaid balance, low P&I, low number of remaining payments. So what are the benefits? If you invest in your IRA or HSA, you're going to grow it tax-free. When you're buying these small dollar pools, you have a better chance of a discount at the purchase, because the hedge funds, and that's where I bought those from, they were trying to liquidate. It was small dollar. It was more of a hassle than they want. But also with that, your ITV, LTV is going to be low, so therefore low risk. Also, because the payers have been in there for so long, it's a lower default rate, the emotional equity. And also, small dollar, there's a great chance that the payers are going to want to pay off early, or especially if they're encouraged to do that, which is what I did. And then you rinse and repeat and reinvest and get a higher rate of return. The other thing is, by buying these smaller, low remaining payment notes, you're avoiding the inflation bomb, because the money's going to be coming to you sooner than later, because who knows where inflation's going to be going with all this money that's out there. So I bought a dozen notes in 2019, late 2019. And then COVID came about just a couple months after that, 3 months after that. I thought, what am I going to do here? So here's what happened. I ended up keeping 5 of the 12. 2 of them I transitioned from a contract for deed to a mortgage. The goal was to sell the notes and make them more attractive. 4 of the payers, they took my offer at a discount, and it was a good thing for me, because I knew also if I kept the notes, the servicing fees would eat my lunch at the back end of the note. So it was actually a win-win. One, I moved into I was planning on doing a partial, and again the payer got weak, and it was a rolling 60 days. And I'm still collecting on that. 2 of them I partial out. On one of the partials, I sold the tail to the tail buyer, and I sold one as an outright sale at 90% of UPB. And of the 5 I'm still holding, my profit on the ones that I sold was $62,500. And then I'm still going to be collecting $24,000 on the remaining notes that I have. Workout options. I could sell a partial and reinvest, discount the UPB to encourage an early payoff and neutralize the burden of servicing costs. And if bought right, sell a small partial as a starter partial to new investors. New investors love UPBs of 10, 12,000. They feel they can't get hurt. They can touch their toe in the water, and there's no risk. I found that to be a phenomenal market. So why did I want to do all this? I wanted to replenish my capital in case I needed it, not knowing what was going to be happening, and I was reducing risk in the future. So a couple questions. Would you buy a note with $175 P&I, considering that the servicing costs could be $40? Probably not. Would you buy a note with only 17 payments remaining? Probably not. You barely get in, you got to get out. Would you buy a note with a small UPB as low as $4,300? Well, that depends. Would you buy a small pool of notes with an average UPB of $10,000? Now, let's assume an interest rate average of 9.7%, average loan to value of 24%, average ITV investment to value of 17%. Average yield on this pool before I did anything. And after deducting a projected $40 a month servicing fee, and that's high, was 85%. And then let's assume that the pool average payments remaining was 43. So what are your exit strategies? What are you going to do? That was things that I had to take into account. But realistically, you're probably saying, I don't know, is this worth all the aggravation and my time investment? Well, I think it was for me. So what did I do? On several of the notes, 4 of them, I offered a 10% reduction on the principal if the payer paid it off in 45 days. And what does that do to your yield? It goes high. And I'm not suggesting getting drunk on yield. I'm just laying out the facts here. It's dollar for dollar, dollar return on your dollar. And so if you're already buying a note at 148% yield, what happens when it pays off early? It goes to the roof. And what if on, let's say, 9 of these, you could do that in your HSA and your IRA tax-free? So what is a Roth IRA? A Roth IRA is an after-tax investment that allows you to pay tax on the seed instead of the harvest. In other words, you pay in with tax dollars, and the money comes out free and clear from taxes. So let's look at the first one here. This is in Pontiac, Michigan. Notice the roof. It's got some blue tarp on it, and we'll get into all that. BPO value was 44. My investment to value was extremely low at 10%. Loan to value was 22%. My yield at purchase, I projected at 38% based upon an interest rate of 10 and a monthly payment of $174, assuming a $40 servicing fee, which it wasn't. And it was 85 payments remaining. So I paid $3,900 on that. No big deal. On a UPB of $8,300. And I held it for 8 months. So I made $5,000. My actual yield was 162%. So let's get into what the background is. The payer was a Hispanic, and he played ignorant on speaking English. That was just the game. His name was Geronimo. So I enlisted the help of my friend here, Huermo, to work with him and talk with him. Huermo is from my Note Investors Forum meetup. I've trained him. So it was with him talking to Geronimo, it was like me talking to Geronimo. Now, what we found out is that in 2012, the original payer quit-claimed his interest to Geronimo, but it wasn't done right, so it was a question of ownership. Frankly, Geronimo didn't think he'd ever own a home because he knew it was weak, and he was really petrified of losing his family home. So we developed trust with him, and then I found out he was a landscaper. This is my prior profession way back in the day before real estate. So it just evolved. So we transitioned the contract for deed into a mortgage, added his wife in as a payor. He was tickled to death about that. She was too. And then I offered to buy him out early or give him a discount. He was thrilled. I knew he had mattress money, being Hispanic in the profession that he was in. So my benefit was not only getting my funds in, but avoiding the negative servicing fees. So let's take a look at this. The moment that Geronimo knew that he was going to own the home, he came forward and paid $3,900 to pay the balance down. And then he made 2 other payments. And then in December, he made another $1,100 payment. This is just after we transitioned into the mortgage. He made 1 payment, skipped a couple months, and then another, and then paid another $900 in April. And then with the discount on his mortgage, he paid it off, $5,100. Here's a check that he sent to Allied Servicing to that effect. It was a good deal for all of us. It was actually a pleasure to work with him. And throughout this, he was utilizing his former loan officer realtor as a sounding board to make sure that I was on the up and up. So it was a good transaction. This particular home is in Eastover, South Carolina. It's a mobile home, well cared for. BPO was at 90 grand. I bought it right at 8% and 16% investment to value and loan to value respectively. And I was projecting a yield of 59%. So I bought $14,000 in unpaid balance for $5,500 with 27 payments remaining. Not much. I held it for roughly 7-8 months. My actual yield was 111%. Now, when I bought this, Patricia had just lost her job and she was petrified about losing her home. She was a professional. And like I mentioned, she had job issues and the pay history was really soft since I bought it. So, but what she did, she went to her retirement account to bring the account current. I knew now she had money. And then what I did was I offered a discounted payoff, a little bit more than I should have, but it was still worthwhile to me, not knowing what her job situation was, to offer that discount. In this case, I think I offered her 10, 15%. And I knew that she had the money in the retirement account, as I mentioned before. And again, I was avoiding the negative servicing issues. So that was all a good thing. So here's the breakdown. The $7,700 to bring the loan current out of a retirement fund and pay it down some more. An additional $1,800 in February. And then a couple of other payments along the way. And then a check for $87.85 in May. She was tickled to death to own her home. She was just ecstatic, knowing that with what's going on in COVID. So let's take a look at this. This is what I sent her for payment options. You know, if paid off by 5/18 of 20, $8,600, and so it goes. She chose those. She was good to go. And what that resulted in was this. May 18th, from Lake City Servicing, they deposited $8,700 in my account. That was a good deal. Let's go back to what did I really do on this note. I made $7,500 over and above my investment of $5,500, and I did that in 8 months. Let's go back. This particular home is in Washington, North Carolina. The BPO value was $48,000. My investment to value was 8, loan to value was 19. My yield was projected at 50% at acquisition. Again, 27 payments remaining. I paid $3,600 on a $9,000 UPB. Again, I owned it for 8 or 9 months. My actual yield was 209%. My profit was $6,000, all in my IRA. Let's take a look at this. I paid $3,600, and then they paid off in July 1st after making 8 payments of $350. So it was a strong paying loan, but I got a check for $68.57. And here it is again from Lake City Servicing, showing the itemized deposit amount to my account. So let's look at another scenario here. Today, last year, buying notes in the 2020 COVID environment. What are you gonna do? You don't know. You hear about all these particular loans that are gonna be going south. They're holding back. What happens when they get there, when the COVID money dies, I'm called the cocaine money dies? You gotta be careful. What are you gonna do? And then, you know, with the moratoriums on foreclosures, what do you do? So let's take a look at the first one. Question to you. Would you buy a 0% coupon rate note? Most people will say, I don't know, or it depends. Now, the parcel here is in Texas. The assessed value is 50 grand. Okay, that's good. Now, the after repaired value with the modular, the mobile, is 150. That's with the dirt and all in Sadler, Texas. Here's Sadler. Again, this is rural. It could push your buttons. 80 miles north of Dallas, but it's by a reservoir, a lot of recreational, and a lot of the California folks are moving here. So there was strong demand. So I thought I couldn't really get hurt. So let's take a look at this whole scenario. I closed on the note August 26th in my IRA again, utilizing the funds that I had just collected. I paid $25,000. There were back taxes of $3,000, rounding it up. The unpaid balance was $43,000. And the payer was behind 5 payments of $2,500. So you're already stacking things up. So you're going from what was a weak pay history to a zero pay history. And what are you going to do? So I connected with the payer. I worked with the attorneys. I worked with my note sellers, and we worked things through it. So there were only 81 payments remaining. Okay, coupon rate sucks. It's bad. There were no escrows, no servicing charges, no late fees. This is a bare bones note. What am I going to do? My investment to value was 23%. Loan to value 39%. So I've got a lot of security here, especially in Texas with the 2-month foreclosure time. And as long as the payer did what he said he was going to do by bringing it current with the $2,500 within a few weeks, my yield was projected at 19%. That's where it was. Now let's look at the backstory. The payer's been there since 2015. He was a renter before he was a owner. 4 kids, self-employed dirt contractor. In 2020 was a particularly tough year for him. He got divorced. He lost his mother, the COVID issues, no cash flow. And then he got the stimulus money. So that kind of put him back on his feet. So my exit strategy was to make sure that he would bring that loan current and pay the back taxes. He was good with that. He was all in. My net investment after he paid the $2,500 and other fees was roughly around $23,000. Now I told him I'm not going to accept this money unless we did a loan modification. So I filled in a lot of the holes that were there with the note. We added a servicing fee, so we increased his payment. The attorney suggested I added a late fee. I didn't think I could get it. We did. And I insisted upon the payer signing a deed in lieu of foreclosure to be held in escrow by the attorney in the event that he got 45 days late. So we are holding that in escrow. That's a good thing. That means that I can foreclose or take the property back, not foreclosing, but just recording that. And my value, I can recoup not just my investment, not just the monies up to the UPB, but all the way up to whatever I can sell the home for to an investor. And that could be 110, 120,000 based upon, let's call it 20,000. Not a bad payday. So here's a $2,500 check that Jesse paid. He did pay the October payment and he paid the back taxes. Then he went dark in November and December. It's like, really? What are you doing, dude? And then 1 hour before the last day, he calls me. He says, I'm ready to go. I can pay tomorrow morning. Okay. I just didn't have it in me to kick him and the 4 kids out on the street. But I told him, I said, I'll do it this time. I will extend, but in the future, you're done. I also knew that he had a job as an over-the-road trucker. He's been working really, really hard at that, putting in a lot of hours. But my expectation is that eventually my Roth IRA will own the home. So let's look at another here. Buying partials in a COVID environment to your advantage. What do you do? What's a safe model? Again, knowing that the value of the dollar is going down, and what options do you have? So this particular property is also in Texas in Howard Wick, which is over by Amarillo. It was all the lender. It was her childhood home. She was a title officer at a title company there. The BPO value was $53,000. The investment to value on a partial was 19%. I hate the loan to value at 98%. That I really don't have anything to lose. Because if it goes south, I'm going to collect everything, and I'll show you why. I'll collect not just the Schedule B, meaning what's my remaining investment. I'll be entitled to all the payments, which would be roughly $33,000. Interest rate was low. Remaining payments high. I don't like that. My investment, I bought this for $15,229, 102 payments. So roughly about a third of the payments. So that's what I shared with her, is that I'll buy a third of the payments for a 30-year balance, for a third of the balance. But as you can see, it's not quite that, and I'll get into that. Here's the location. Again, it's by a reservoir. Again, it's a good location for vacationers, for the California people moving here. Good, solid area, about half hour, 45 minutes from Amarillo. The backstory, I mentioned the childhood home of the seller she really needed cash. She was motivated. Payer job is not so good, Subway, and her husband works somewhere else, I don't know, in the restaurant industry or something. She's got several kids. Pay history was so, really weak. But again, I'm buying on futures. My goal down the road is that I will probably own this house, this note, via foreclosure. And I'll receive the full dollar amount of payments of 33 grand or so, no matter what, based upon the way the purchase and sale agreement was issued. So this is the slide showing, the graph showing exactly what the scenario was. I bought 102 payments for $15,000. She was concerned about taking a hit on her balance. But what she saw is that after the balance was, I think, 52, 53 on the note, that after the partial pays off, she's still going to be able to collect 42,000. Well, what's the value of that going to be? And on 204 payments, she'd be collecting $67,000. But really, again, what is that worth? So here's another breakdown. The balance was 51.7. Remaining term was 306 months. The rate was 6%, and the payment with the P&I was 330. So I did pay 15,229. That is a little bit less than the buying a third of the note for a third of the UPB, but I had to factor in, and I told her this, the 6% interest rate. That was just the way it had to be. But the yield, based upon this purchase, is at 22%. Not bad. Now, this is the key factor off the purchase and sale agreement. In effect, it says, no matter what, after the first payment, I am due, even in the event of early payoff, $33,000 plus. So I bought this only for that reason. That's the only reason that I bought this. And the payer did get weak on the first payment. We went back to her. She's now on ACH, so it'll be okay. But as other worldwide events or national events come on, I think she'll probably fall off the wagon, is my gut. We'll see. For her sake, I hope no. For my sake, I hope yes. So again, this is that phrase. So in my work career, I've always felt that I would win in the long game. So look at this as a mindset reset. Maybe for you, maybe not for you, it depends. But persistence isn't about knocking on one door until the thing opens. It's about knocking on all the doors. So where I'm going with this is the next case study has to do with an investment that I probably never should have done going back to 2011. And it's going to work out now thanks to COVID and the population migration out of New York City north, Boston north, whatever. And going back to the old David Fenolio saying that patience equals profit. So let's take a look at this. In this particular case, this fits it so good. At some point, your timing will be right. Right now, the way things are in this marketplace, the timing is right. I bought this old Moosehead woolen mill in Corinna, Maine, that was established in 1878 in 2011. I bought it for the water rights. It had some old textile buildings there. There might have been some environmental issues, but they were mitigated. They're gone. But we bought the river. We bought the water. So Corinna is just south of Bangor and north of Portland, Maine, off of I-95, just to get a sense of where this is. It's out in the middle of, wherever you want to call it. Here it is here. There's Corinna with the red. We have self-storage that we're now expanding because the timing's right. Our marketing area, normally you're talking about within 3 miles. Because this is a rural location, we're getting renters from within 10 miles, which is shown with the dark circle. That's an anomaly. Also, we're finding that we're using social media to market, so we're able to bring all these people in. We just got a call from somebody in New Hampshire with a mass number moving up to Dexter, which is on the top of the circle by Route 7 there. And they're going to be moving in the end of February. So we're getting people from all over. The primary road going to here, I'll show you that. So in the meantime, though, we tried a lot of different things. We tried an RV park. Of course, we tried self-storage, and that was weak, and we just kept it going because it was paying the bills. We tried aggregating our dam in with 3 other larger dams in the area. We lost our investor because the seller was squirrely. We tried truck rentals with Penske and with U-Haul. And a couple of years ago, we were looking at a CBD extraction facility and business incubator for marijuana. That the town didn't like that. So we tried a bunch of different things, and I'm thinking, what the heck am I going to do? So let's look at this project. As I mentioned, it's a former textile mill with deeded sequential water rights going back to 1878. We have 3 acres. There's 15,000 square feet of old buildings. There's we're now erecting a 3,300 square foot steel building, which contains 30 units. We've got people waiting for that right now on a waiting list. Now, our goal down the road is to develop this project out to as much as 77,000 square feet with 450 units, subject to demand. We've got to see where that's going to go. We could do a feasibility study now, but I don't think it would be accurate because of the population migration. We've got to wait on that. Also, we can develop solar with panels on top of the buildings. Because of the existing dam and the water rights, we can go pretty much green, no negative imprint. We can take that dam, put a turbine on it, and create our own power. That's not bad, especially if you want to have climate-controlled warehouses, which we will in a few of the buildings. Now, we owned a parcel a quarter of a mile from here for a couple of years just to get frontage on Route 7, which we needed. And then Dollar General came around and said, we want to buy it. So we sold it to them. So they did the demographic studies and everything else. My feeling is, if there's a Dollar General store within a quarter of a mile, they wouldn't have sited themselves there unless they felt there was something worth going on there. And additionally, all self-storage facilities within 10 miles are full. If we build this full project out, if fully developed, we'll be investing $3.8 million. We're going to phase it in as needed in a 3 to 5 year time frame. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with self-storage. Banks love them. There's a 98% success rate. That's pretty strong, as long as you don't go, just jump off the cart. So what's coming up here? In 2021, right now, our goal is to build out the next phase, which will be an additional 48 units and fill those by the end of 2021 to 65%. But beyond that, we've got to secure our financing, not only for that phase, but for the rest. So that's one thing we're doing right now. My goal is to secure that financing with however it's going to be, whether it be an equity partner, SBA loan, or whatever. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. Let's take a look at the site. So you can see the old mill building to the top left. You can see the dam to the right. You can see the Google aerial down below. So the site, you can see 60 Mill Street, where the mill building is. You can see what's written there, where the river is. When we drop the sluiceway on the dam, we're creating a 10-acre mill pond, which will create other real estate opportunities. So in effect, we own that 10 acres too. Now on Route 7 to the left, the daily traffic count is 8,000. You can see the new dollar store. Also, there's an abandoned ATV trail there, an old rail line, not an abandoned ATV trail, an abandoned rail line. It's used as an ATV trail. Great source of occupants for our site. So this is what we're doing at Mid-Main. I'm excited about this. I see so much potential. Again, everything can change tomorrow, but right now it certainly looks really good. And yes, we are fighting the weather, as you can see right here. The building's pretty much up. We got about 2 more weeks to go in between working at 15-degree temperatures with a chill factor of 25. I'm not there, I'm in Phoenix, but my partner is. My partner lives up in Plymouth, Maine. Now, if you look at the site plan, you can see the different buildings that we've got planned. The green X's are new buildings. The blue X's are existing buildings. The red X is a building that we're going to tear down. And the middle building, where it says undetermined use, extensive rehab, that's the old mill building in the middle. I'm not sure what we're going to do with that. It's got some serious structural issues. Now, also we don't know for sure, above the picture, and you'll see the notation, a 3-story, 36,000 square foot building or 1-story buildings. I don't know if we're going to build that out because I don't know if the demand's going to be there. It's 36,000 square feet at $65 a foot. That's a significant investment, not knowing, because that's why I want to phase this in slowly to make sure that we're dealing on a solid foundation. It's great to build something out right away, but to have it empty for a year and paying all the carrying costs makes no sense whatsoever. Additionally, on the top, where the existing warehouse is, we're probably going to raise the roof and do some major rehab there with a new foundation and floor and turn that into additional under roof self-storage. That's my guess, and I think the demand will be there for that. So again, overall, 440 plus units on this 3-acre site. I'm excited about it. It's, again, COVID brought this benefit, a totally dead project. COVID brought it around because of the, let's say, 300,000 people moving out of New York City, moving north, moving south, moving out of Boston, wanting to work remotely, wanting to get into a rural area, which this is, moving out of Bangor, moving out of Portland, moving out of Augusta. We're right in the midst of that, and everybody I talk to says that it's pretty much where it is, that's going to continue. So I'm excited. So the road to success, it's perceived. You just go down, you might have a failure along the way, no big deal. But the reality is there's a lot of twists and turns, roadblocks, you get pulled back, just like in the game of Candyland. You go down, you move down to board 10, you get pulled back 5, you don't know. But it all gets down to patience equaling profit and reducing your risk in these uncertain times. I sincerely believe that. I've been through a ton of cycles. I remember several years ago in when was that? And that was in 2007. I went to a Jack Miller seminar, and he had been through 11 recessions. And he was talking about how it's just going to be dicey, which his prediction was right. We are no different now. They're going to be changing the monetary system. There's a lot of things going on. The bubble that we're seeing now in homes, the price points and the demand, it's going to be, we'll see. But reduce your risk. Be cautious of what you do. When you're buying notes, buy them with a low loan to value, investment to value. Look at the type of asset you're buying. What's going to be your back end strategy? I just think that's so important. Now, a lot of that you can learn about. I've got a note holder's handbook. It's on the Capstone Capital website. If you go to the website, go to the free information tab, download it. There's 30 pages of strong material, 40 pages of meat and potatoes, but it's good. I think If you're a newbie, I think you'll find it very, very interesting. Even if you're seasoned, you'll probably find it interesting. It goes into partials and just buying parameters. Additionally, I have a number of videos on YouTube under Capstone Capital or Dave Franicke. They are 5 to 15 minutes long. Great trading. There's several videos there from the Note Investors Forum meetup, which is kind of on hold for the moment due to the COVID stuff. I'd recommend you go there. I think you'll find it very, very interesting. And if you do watch the videos, like us. That would be great. So here's my information. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. Hopefully you've learned something. Feel free to connect with me. I'd love to talk to you, and look forward to talking to you in the future.